Thank you to Movement for Life Physical Therapy for sponsoring this video and sponsoring me as an athlete. Women's Advanced Nogi Division. This is the Cruiserweight Division, which is one weight class above what I normally compete at. Also, if I sound weird on the voiceover, sorry about that. I have a cold right now, and so if I sound congested, it's because I am congested. We are hand fighting and looking to try to get to our grips to start to set up our takedowns. She is a Muay Thai fighter, and so for that reason, she's very heavy in this collar tie position and in the clinch type position, which I had a little bit harder time with than I would have liked. That's definitely something that I need to work on because not a lot of people at my gym play that really heavy collar tie style of wrestling. I'm having a hard time getting to the grips that I want. She's doing a really good job of preventing me from getting to my arm drags and my Russian ties and the things that I would normally use to set up my takedowns. We're circling and looking for those grips. Like I said, she's being very, very heavy in that collar tie position. She's looking for a snap down, but I am not letting her pull my head too hard, and I'm recovering well from those snap down attempts. We're continuing to circle, looking for that inside position. I'm looking to try to start to get to my arm drags. But like I said, I'm having a hard time clearing these really heavy collar ties and dealing with that attempted snap down. Here she's kind of trying to switch it to a foot sweep. And like I said, there's just not really anybody at my gym who plays this style of wrestling, and so I was glad to have this match because it definitely exposed a weakness for me that I can now work on. We're still in that head-to-head position, fighting for good head positioning, good hand positioning, and trying to look to start to set up our takedowns. By this point, we're pretty far into the match and nothing has really happened here. So the ref stopped the match and he gives us each a penalty for stalling because he's like, hey guys, we got to get the show on the road. So we shake hands again and start back. So I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive here. She's trying to snap me down and I am able to stay up. The ref resets us back in the center of the mat and restarts the match. We get back to our hand fighting and our head fighting, looking for that good hand positioning, that good head positioning. She's still kind of looking for those little foot sweeps. I am trying to figure out how to clear these collar ties and start to go for my takedowns. I start to go in for this Russian, but I'm not quite able to secure the grips that I want. Here I'm reaching over the top of her collar ties for some reason. Don't do that. That was really dumb. Do as I say, not as I do. She starts to pressure into me, and I use it as an opportunity to hit this nice little head and arm throw, which I am able to secure, but I'm not able to hold her down long enough to get my points, and she immediately scrambles up into this turtle position and starts to reverse it into a single leg. I try to defend the single leg here for a second, and then I'm initially thinking that maybe I can roll back and throw her over the top, but she does a really good job of settling her hips to prevent me from reversing her reversal, and she gets 2 points for the takedown via single leg. You can see here that my right leg is trapped under her hips, but if I'm able to get that leg free, she's going to be in a lot of triangle danger, so she has to be super mindful here about what she does with her hands and not letting herself get caught in that choke, which she does. She does a good job of keeping good posture and staying nice and squared up with her shoulders, but I am able to get to my closed guard and am immediately hunting for Kimuras and start trying to isolate arms. She is looking to try to posture up, break open my closed guard, and start to clear the legs and pass to a top position, while I am looking to try to either isolate arms and start to work for my submissions, or start to tip her off balance and try to sweep her over to make up those 2 points. At this point, we're starting to get a little bit low on time, and she is still leading 2 points to 0, so I really need to make something happen to either secure a submission or start to make up those points. Here I start to sit up to try to hunt for either my hip bump sweep or my Kimura, but she's doing a really good job of staying pressured into me and not letting me bump her over. I then underhook the leg and start to look for my arm bar or my pendulum sweep, but she does a good job of keeping her hips square, so I go inverted and into my K-guard and start to get in on the leg, hunting for my knee bar, which I get a really good bite on and am starting to extend. And I'm able to secure the tap, and I win this match by submission via knee bar. I really enjoyed this match and this opponent. I feel like I did well, but I definitely learned a lot, and this definitely exposed some holes in my game that I need to work on, which is the best thing to do when you're competing. All right, match number 2. This is the finals of the women's advanced Nogi division. We immediately tie up and start to hand fight, looking for a good head positioning, look for a good hand positioning. I'm starting to look for my Russian ties and my arm drags, looking to control hands and get good head positioning so I can start to set up my takedowns. She is starting to look to try to dig for underhooks, and here she is able to slide in for an underhook on that right side, my left side, and she uses it to hit this nice little trip. It's kind of hard to see on the video, but when she took me down, her left knee came down and hit my right hip. So immediately I start to feel like there's just kind of like a bruise there, but I'm still feeling okay and not thinking it's a very big deal. Here I'm looking for my Kimura or my hip bump, trying to look to start to hunt for a submission or make up those 2 points that I lost on the takedown, but she's doing a good job of keeping a nice wide base and pressuring me back down. Here I start to see if I can switch to my arm bar. She starts to pull her arm back, so I start to switch to hunting for my Barato Plata, but she does a great job of pressuring me back down and preventing me from getting to the grips that I want. As I'm playing my guard and I'm having to cut my angle and push off more to set up my sweeps and submissions, I'm starting to notice a sharp pain in my right hip. But at this point, I'm just really wanting to try to make up those points that I lost on the takedown. And so I'm trying not to think about it, but I am definitely starting to notice that it's probably a little bit more than a bruise. But at this point, the pain still isn't that bad. So I'm just trying to focus on hunting for my sweeps and my submissions and hand fighting and trying to see what I can make happen here to make up those 2 points that I lost on the takedown. She's doing a really good job here of keeping her hips squared up with my body and keeping her elbows and arms in tight to prevent me from being able to start to isolate arms and attack for my submissions. She also has a nice wide base, which makes it really difficult for me to start to look for my sweeps. Here she starts to try to press down on my leg, and I reset my guard, but I'm really wide here, and so she starts to drive that knee in to try to break my guard open, and I start playing this knee shield position. Here's where I made my mistake. So I've been hitting a lot of half guard electric chair lockdown sweeps in training, and so I was like, oh, I'll just switch to half guard and go for my electric chair sweep because I've been hitting it all the time in training. She's doing a good job of trying to cross face me and keep a nice wide base, but I am able to get underneath her leg with my underhook and get my legs wrapped around one of her legs to start to hunt for my half guard sweeps. But I'm starting to feel a lot more pain in my hip, and so I'm really kind of struggling in this position. We got kind of off to the side, so the ref decides to reset us back in the middle. He does a really good job of making sure that he takes note of the position so that he can reset us exactly back in the same position, which I appreciate because not all refs do a good job of that. So we reset back in the middle and get back into that half guard position with the same position that we had before. The ref double checks to make sure we are in the right reset position, and we start the match back. I am still looking to try to get into my lockdown half guard position. She's doing a good job of cross facing me to try to prevent me from doing that, and decides to stand up to try to continue her guard pass. You can see by my positioning on the legs, I'm being a lot less disciplined with my lockdown and my positioning and my technique than I normally am, because at this point I was starting to be in quite a bit of pain, especially trying to, here I switched down to more like a lockdown position. I'm having a really hard time extending out, which if you know anything about lockdown type half guard position, then you know that extending out is a crucial part of being able to do lockdown. But for whatever reason, the extending and curling back in that I would normally do for lockdown was really, really painful and sending a lot of pain into my hip, and it was getting progressively worse throughout throughout the match. My opponent is also using really good top pressure and a really good crossface to try to pass and clear my half guard. I am trying to just maintain a hold of that leg and try to get up onto my right hip so that I can start to elevate and look for my sweeps. You can see I'm trying to sit my hips out to the right, but she's doing a good job of keeping her pressure nice and heavy on me and making it difficult for me to get up onto my side the way that I want. Here, I'm trying to extend that leg out again, and I've got kind of an okay positioning on it, but I'm really, really struggling to extend out the way that I normally would. My right hip flexor was locking up really badly at this point, and so it was just inhibiting my ability to do the technique properly. Normally, I do lockdown pretty well and have pretty good lockdown sweep, but I just was not able to execute the technique in the way that it needs to be executed because it was just in so much pain. My opponent is still using that heavy crossface to try to pass my guard. She's able to get her knee through past the knee line from half guard into quarter mount. And from here, at this point, I'm just kind of like, we're on short time and I'm down on points. So we're just going to kind of do stuff and hope for the best and try to not get submitted. In my head, I was like, I'm going to do a hip toss from the ground. I don't know why that's what I thought was a good idea, but I was in pain and desperate. So that was a dumb plan. Don't do that. She gets her pass, and I believe she gets points for the mount position. I'm just trying to not get submitted. You can see she's trying to lock up like an Americana, and I roll over. I don't know why I did that. She gets back points. At this point, I'm just trying to make it to the end of the match. The match ends, and I'm in quite a bit of pain. I felt bad because I didn't want to be one of those people that's like super dramatic, but I really was in a lot of pain. Here, the ref comes to check on me. I'm like, no, I'm good. I can stand up on myself, and that was not going to happen. My hip was like completely locked up, and I was having a hard time moving it. But stuff happens. You know, it's a combat sport. You're going to have to deal with some injuries sometimes. I also want to make sure that it doesn't come across like I'm blaming me losing on the injury, just because I don't think that's a good mindset to have. My opponent was really good. I would love to have a rematch with her at some point. And injuries are just a part of this sport. You gotta just work through them. I am proud of myself for pushing through to the end of the match, although I was disappointed that I wasn't able to still get the win. I'm also super grateful to have a great physical therapist that has helped me rehab this injury. I did have to take a couple of weeks off of free rolling, which led to a lot of sauna sessions and steam room sessions because I couldn't do anything else. But I'm recording this video about a month, a little bit over a month after the tournament and the injury happened, and taking some time off and spending a lot of time going to PT and making sure that I'm doing the things that I need to do to get better has definitely paid off. Here I am training. I'm almost fully back to training. I definitely have to take it a little bit easy and make sure that I'm easing back into training and not going crazy right off the bat. But I'm really appreciative to have Movement for Life as a sponsor so that I am able to get the help that I need and the resources that I need to make sure I make a full recovery. So thank you to Movement for Life for sponsoring me as an athlete and sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.